Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Fridley School Board for February 15th, 2022. First, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, is there an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a move by Stark, thank you, and a second by Adam. Any changes? Anything else? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And so moved. So, one of the highlights of our meeting is the recognition of an Employee of the Month. Dr. Heil, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Meisner and School Board. I would like to send out congratulations to the Fridley Public Schools. February 2022 Employee of the Month is Nadine Teff. Nadine is currently the cook manager at Hayes Elementary School. She has been at Hayes for the last 3 years. Prior to that, she was a cook manager at Stevenson Elementary School. She has worked for the Fridley Public School District for 11 years. Nadine is passionate about serving her community and students. She works with her team to provide scratch-made, nutritious meals for her customers daily. Nadine takes pride in her work and the service provided to the students. She always has a smile, encourages students to try new food items, and has a positive attitude. Whenever we want to taste test a new food, Nadine and her team are always the first ones to volunteer. During all of the changes with COVID-19, Nadine has remained focused on how to serve our customers a healthy, hot meal to make sure that every student is fed. Nadine is a valuable member of the Nutritional Services team, and congratulations, Nadine. We appreciate you, and that's by Renee Arbogast, the Director of Nutritional Services.
Fantastic, and congratulations to Nadine, and thank you for all that you do. Our next item is a staff report from the Nutritional Services Group with Renee Arbogast. Please.
Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and present today on the Nutritional Services Department. My name is Renee Arbogast. I am the Director of Nutritional Services. And I just want to let you guys know that every picture that you guys will see in this presentation tonight is either one of the Nutritional Services staff team members, a meal that we've served, or an item that we have taste tested this entire school year. So it is definitely representative of what we are doing in each one of our schools. Just to provide you with a quick little overview of what we've been doing. Even through the pandemic, we have continued to remain focused on our scratch cooking and quick scratch cooking for all of our meals. Quick scratch, for those who do not know, is when we take like a pizza crust and we take pre-made pizza sauce and shredded cheese, and we prepare that pizza right on site. We do that with like our Hawaiian pizzas, our Alfredo pizzas, those types of things. Where scratch cooking is we take it 100% from a raw item, we cook it on site, and we continue to prepare that item completely. We continue to expand the number of quick scratch items and scratch items that we are serving to our customers on a daily basis. Just like every other organization, department within the school district, we have definitely had lots of challenges over the last year, but our goal has always been steadfast and true, that we serve our students the highest quality, nutritious meal possible, as well as serving our community as much as we can. I have 23 very dedicated and passionate school nutrition professionals who show their passion every day in what we serve and all of our interactions with our customers, whether it be staff, whether it be community, or our students. We continue to be very flexible as we've been dealing with all the supply chain issues, and become very creative on how we present our meals and how we cook our meals so that we're meeting the USDA requirements. Plus, on top of that, we continue to be committed to our Minnesota farmers and local manufacturers that I'll touch upon a little later. Oops, back one. Okay, nope, we gotta back one more. Some of the challenges we've had this year is just storage issues. We were notified just before school started that instead of getting two deliveries a week, we were down to one. So we had to really become creative with our dry storage, our freezer storage, our cooler storage to make sure that we were able to prepare our meals the way we wanted to, providing the highest quality meals that we could. The picture that you see here is of our October Minnesota Thursday. So every single item on this tray, minus the pickles and the ketchup, were a Minnesota grown product. And I'll talk about those a little bit later. The biggest thing that we have dealt with is supply chain issues. Just like when you guys go to the grocery store to buy your groceries, buy your kids' favorite items, we've been dealing with the same issues. 1 week we may have 1 or 2 items that are out. Next week we may have over 50% of our items being out. So we continue to look for creative ways that we can provide our students meals without making a lot of menu changes. But we have had to make menu changes just due to we can't get a product or we can't sub something that is equal, which has caused some challenges for us as well as our customers. But we continue to work through that process. We continue to remain focused on what we are doing with that. And so we continue to look for new ways to provide those items. Just like everybody else, we've had our fair share of staffing challenges, which then impacts how we prepare our meals, how we serve our meals, what those meals might look like for our customers. But my staff are very creative in making sure that everything looks appetizing and looks appealing for our students and our staff when they're coming through meal times. And then finally, fluctuating student participation. As we see a lot of kids out with COVID, we've seen staff out with COVID, our participation will go up and down. So we've definitely been challenged to make sure that we have enough of each item, and we continue to look for creative ways to make sure that our students are getting their first choice as much as we possibly can with that. But we're also seeing a much higher participation rate in our elementary schools than what we've seen in the past. So that has been very nice for us and allows us to encourage students to try some new items that they may not necessarily have tried before. One of the biggest things that we continue to do through the pandemic is our farm to school program. This year we purchased quite a few new items. That included the Thousand Hills all beef hot dogs that we used in our December Minnesota Thursday, which is up in the upper left-hand corner. And we have purchased things straight from Ferndale Farms out of Cannon Cannon River, where we had the turkey burgers, which we served in October, as well as subsequently on the menu. We had the turkey cocktail wieners. We've been ordering Revolve greens out of Medford, acorn squash, russet potatoes, were all some of the newer items that we purchased this year. Like I said, we've been doing Minnesota Thursdays, so we've done 2 of those this year, and we're looking to do another one in April. Where we highlight as much of the Minnesota grown agriculture as we possibly can. This year we have been purchasing a lot of our fresh produce from Good Acre out of Roseville, and they work with a lot of small farmers, a lot of Hmong farmers, a lot of different ethnic groups that are growing agriculture. So we've been using that and then highlighting that as we've been talking to our students. We ordered straight from Ferndale Farms. We ordered from Pine Tree Apples Orchard. We started ordering from Bayfield apples in January because they still had some extra produce left from the harvest up in Bayfield, Wisconsin. And then also our Hangry Bear Pizza that we serve at all the schools is made right in Maple Plain. And all of those items for that is been locally sourced. So, and that one comes from our broadline distributor. Just to kind of give you guys an idea, we've purchased 530 cases of food from locally grown places from those distributors in total, which equates to about 12,857 pounds of food, not including our pizza. So it's quite a bit of produce that we've really been committed to try and serve to our students. And beside that, some of the other items we've purchased are our apples, our mini peppers, our cucumbers, our radishes, our potatoes, our tomatoes, our delicata squash, Brussels sprouts, and we even did cranberries this year. So we've been really trying to kind of expand that and give our students some different flavors of while supporting that local agriculture. One of the other things that's very important to us is student voice. We have become more creative in how we engage our students on a regular basis. We've done some Google surveys with the high school students. Sara and I are frequently out talking to students at lunchtime, whether it be at the elementary, middle, or high school levels, asking them how their lunch is, what kinds of things do they need, what kinds of things do they want, so that we are more engaged and know more what our customers are looking for. We had set up some meetings in January until we went to blended learning. So we quickly pivoted to partner with teachers and the social workers to meet with students via Google Meets. So we did a lot of interviews with the middle school students. We met with with all the grades 5, 6, 7, and 8 at the middle school to ask them what they liked, what they didn't like, what kinds of things could we do differently. And we provided some very valuable feedback from them, as well as we met with quite a few of the 3rd and 4th grade classes to kind of understand and give us that elementary perspective, so we weren't just focusing on one particular grade. Along with that, we do a lot of taste testing that I'll touch on at the next couple of slides, and then we also transitioned to a lot of grab and go options in the high school to really meet our students where they were at and wanting to get through that lunch line out with their friends as quickly as they possibly could. So some of the things that we have done this year for recipe development and taste testing, there'll be 2 slides worth. It's been very successful. And on this list here, items that are going to show up on next year's menu are going to be the Jamaican jerk chicken thighs, which are raw chicken thighs that we marinate and we cook in the ovens. The breakfast sandwich went over very well at all the schools. So it is using a whole grain croissant, scrambled eggs, and a turkey sausage and cheese. The Hawaiian pizza, smoothie bowls, and then baked apples. And what you'll see in these pictures is on the right-hand side is the smoothie bowl, which has got yogurt. It's got some pureed blueberries and strawberries, and it's got blueberries and strawberries on top, quickly becoming a favorite at the high school. And on the left-hand side, we have homemade applesauce, where we had apples that we had purchased and we're not going to use, and so we wanted to try something different. So we made some homemade applesauce for our students, and it went over really very, very well. Then the second set that we've also done that we'll be doing next year on our menus is the Parmesan brown rice risotto. A lot of the kids really liked that at the middle and high school level. We'll be doing some elote corn when we have like our burrito bowls and our enchiladas. We will be continuing with the roasted acorn squash, homemade pickles. We've got a lot of kids who like pickles, but pickles are so high in sodium. And with the new nutritional regulations that will go into effect next year, we had to start cutting the sodium level. So we were looking for some creative ways to make some of those items, but still give the students what they're looking for with their burgers and their chicken patty on a bun and those types of things. And then also peanut yogurt dip, which will be another vegetarian option that we will use at the middle and high school, where we take peanut butter and we yogurt and we mix it together in the food processor. And it's a dip that you can dip apples in, you can dip graham crackers in, and things like that. So it gives us another option, and that went over very well at all of our grade levels. And that is actually what you see on the right-hand side. The left-hand side of this picture is all of our acorn squash, cut and ready to go before we seasoned it and put it in the oven for our October Minnesota Thursday. Some of the other things that we are definitely focusing on is just our staff. With the transition to scratch cooking, it takes a whole new skill set for my team. So we continue to work with them on improving their skills, improving their confidence to be able to make these meals from scratch. One of the things that we do struggle with is the mix of pre-made items and scratch, because we are finding a lot of our students are not used to having scratch cooked items. They're used to having something that would just go in the microwave or that they would go run to, fast food or something like that, or pick it up at the gas station. So we're continuing to try to introduce those new items and expand their palettes, as well as trying to meet those USDA requirements. Right now we do about 40 to 50% of our items, either quick scratch or scratch. We're hoping to increase that next year so that more of it is going to be of that quick scratch or scratch items. As well as we continue to find new flavor profiles. We're looking for additional seasonings where we find our kids just love hot sauce and they love that spice. And so we're trying to kind of find additional spice flavor profiles for them, while controlling that sodium level for them and just really trying to encourage them to try different things. And then one of the other things that we have been doing, like I said, was the grab and go items. You'll see both of these pictures here are examples of two of the grab and go items that we use. On the upper right hand side is our Italian hoagie sub. We bake that bread from a dough puck. And so it's freshly made right at the high school, and we slice it and we make our sandwiches on that. In there also is their fruit and their vegetable. So the concept with this is that they would just be able to grab that. If they want to grab an extra fruit and they want to grab a milk, they've got a reimbursable meal. So they're not standing in line for a long period of time. They're not trying to make up their mind what they want, and they're able to go to that cashier station. The other one is a picture of our taco salad, which has got our lettuce, it's got our turkey taco meat, our salsa, olives, jalapenos, and their chips. And that too would also then have a fruit with it, and then they can grab their milk. These have been very successful. At the high school level, we have usually 3 grab and go options every day. There's usually a salad, a sandwich, and then either a bento box or parfait. There may be like a breakfast bento box. We kind of rotate those around. We've got a rotation for our salads and our sandwiches so that they get quite a variety, as well as the 2 to 3 hot items, tray items that we serve every day, either on our growler grill or our main entree line. And then K through 8 usually have at least 2 menu options every day. Maybe a hot item, hot and a cold, might be too hot depending on what we're serving. The other big thing that we have done this year is we've tried to go as much contactless as possible at all of our POS stations. Worked better than others. We continue to work with our high school and middle school students to make sure that they have their barcodes. But we are finding that once those barcodes are out, they're going through the lines much quicker. We're getting them out, and they're then able to enjoy their lunchtime. We continue to engage with our students, as well as this year, we are still providing free breakfast and free lunch due to the USDA waiver. And we're hopeful that those waivers will continue. That will be up to the federal government to decide. And along with this too is we're really just encouraging our students to try new menu item options. When it's free, they're more willing to try it, and we're really trying to encourage them to do that as much as possible. Some of the other things that we continue to do is just be creative. We are trying different packaging, and as our regular packaging is not in, we're transitioning to something else. We're looking for different ways to do this. What you'll see in both of these pictures is on the right-hand side is one of our salad bars. This year, we pre-packaged everything just to kind of decrease that contact with COVID. And then on the left-hand side is one of our yogurt parfaits that we serve at the high school that go very quickly. We continue to look for different ethnic dishes. This year we did a Korean beef. We've done a teriyaki chicken. And later this year we're going to try a sambusa. So, and with some different ethnic sauces with it. So we're hoping to try and find some additional types of things that better reflect what our student population looks like. Besides trying to engage our students, we're engaging our staff. We have done a lot of staff development this year around equity and inclusion. We've had quite a bit of training on that. We have done a lot of training about how do we encourage our students to try new meals, what their role in is it, what our role is in this process, so that we can expand their horizons and kind of open them up to new things. And ultimately, we remain very focused on providing that nutritious meal so that our students can be their very best in the classroom. And that's really what drives my staff on a daily basis. And these are the teams. These are the people who are making your kids' meals every day. On the left, you see Nadine and Heather. Missing from that picture is Trishana. And they are at Hayes, and it's the three of them who are serving roughly 380 meals every day at lunchtime. On the other side, you've got the middle school team, which is Andrea, Charlene, Durea, Sara, Zong, and Beth. And they're serving roughly about 560 to 570 lunches every day with a team of 6. And at the high school, at Stevenson, we've got pretty much a brand new team there. We've got Ruben and Kristen and Pam, who are always smiling, always encouraging, and really, making sure that our students are having a high quality experience. In the middle, you've got Sara, who is our nutrition coordinator, who does a lot of the menu planning and works with me, and her and I support the entire process. And then on the far right, you've got my high school team, which is missing Lynn, but it's Tiffany, Stephanie, Faith, Lisa, Susan, Tammy, Fatima, and Jolly. It is these people who make every day go, and it's their dedication. So, just want to say thank you, and we're very proud to serve your students. So if you have any questions.
Thank you, Renee.
Yep.
Love to see it. Any questions?
Renee, I have a question, or more of a comment.
Yeah.
I was in the room when my son was doing distance learning, and he goes to Hayes.
Yep.
And they had the food person come in and ask a series of questions about the food.
Yep.
And the first question is, what's your favorite food? Does anyone want to take a guess? Pizza, tacos, donuts,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I'm sitting in another room, I'm trying to work, and I'm like, this is not going to be productive. But then she asked a question that I think really spurred a really good conversation. What do your parents make at home? Well, actually, she said, what do your mothers make at home? And I instantly got offended because I cook in my house.
Sorry,
But that's fine. That's fine. But she asked, what do you eat at home? What do your parents make? And
Yep.
the things that came out of these fourth graders' mouths, for one, half the dishes I didn't even recognize, but I certainly would like to try after hearing the description of them.
Yep.
And I think that's just a really good way to go to that, more ethnic dishes. And I think kids are obviously going to be more comfortable eating something
Yep.
that's familiar to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great way to get kids to eat. And if it's, Abi Salam and I, we've shared a meal before. And if he says, Jake, you should try this, it's delicious, I like him. He's a friend of mine. I'm going to try it. And I think if you have that same kind of philosophy going on in school, like my kid sits down and it's not Swedish meatballs and mashed potatoes, it's something else.
Yep.
He might have a friend to say, hey, Emmett, this is actually really good. It's XYZ. There might be an opportunity there. And I just really appreciate the thoughtfulness of that question when they asked my son's class, what do you eat at home? I think that really hit it on the head.
Well, and it also gives us insight, too, as to what are kids being exposed to at home. What kinds of things are we missing in this process? We know that there's a lot more ethnic foods out there we could be serving, and we fully recognize that the way we have to make it at school may not be the way mom and dad make it at home. And so it's trying to find that fine balance of what will they eat, how can we encourage them, but make it familiar. And that's something Sara and I are very committed to doing.
Renee, I just want to, just incredible job of what your team is doing. Was there some type of grant that was just recently done?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you not want to share it with the board?
No,
or?
I can share with the board.
Oh, okay.
I had applied for a foundation grant, and we were awarded $2,700, and I will be purchasing aeroponic towers. So an aeroponic tower is a tower that we will be able to grow greens in the cafeteria. And we are going to be partnering with the the teachers in each one of the schools to incorporate that into the curriculum, to be able to, whether it be math, whether it be science, those kinds of things, so they can get some educational experience out of it. But then also we can then serve those items in the cafeteria, and they can see those items being grown. So it's primarily allowing us to grow greens, which we find a lot of our kids don't like. But we're hoping that if they can see it grow and they can be involved in the process, that they're going to be a little bit more willing to try that. So that has kind of been our latest thing, to expose them to the agriculture and expose them to some other greens and things like that they may not normally see. So.
Very nice. And Renee, just curious, how is the take up on breakfast? Are a lot of kids eating breakfast?
It varies. It really depends on when they're coming. We are seeing an uptick in kids eating breakfast in the elementary schools. We especially notice that in classrooms where the teachers encourage them to have breakfast. They encourage them to take those items. High school, we get a lot of kids eating second chance breakfast. So they don't eat in that until about 8:45. Middle school, we're not seeing as much because this year we're not doing second chance breakfast just because of the way the school is structured this year. Our goal is to be able to go back to that. And we continue to encourage our students to try. I think breakfast items have probably been hit the hardest on what we can and can't get. We would normally have about 8 different breakfast spreads. We're down to about 3. So we've got a little bit more repetition, and so the kids aren't as excited about that, but we continue to try to encourage them.
I have a question. Yeah. You mentioned with COVID, how do you work if you're still doing like one lunch, for instance, at the high school?
Yep.
How do you rotate kids and keep kids safe and having masks and being able to sit at tables? Same with breakfast. Are you eating in the classrooms? Are they eating in the cafeteria? And then do they have like a breakfast line, or is it more like grab and go?
It depends on the school. Where our elementary and our middle schools, they're pretty much eating in their classrooms. So they'll go through the breakfast line and they'll grab what they need to grab. They do have their masks on, those kinds of things. And then we enter in their PIN numbers for them, or they use the barcodes. At the high school, we have I would say about a third of them who will eat breakfast before school. And then they're in the cafeteria. And then at second chance breakfast, both of them, they'll go through the cafeteria line where we've got everything set out for them. They really much grab what they want, enter their PIN, and then they go wherever they're going to consume their breakfast. For lunch, obviously the middle school they eat by grade, and then elementary schools they eat, in the cafeterias. We keep them as far apart as we can. For one lunch, they kind of spread out, and we've got separately 2 separate lunches. Within one lunch, we've got half of them who are kind of going down to the gym. They're doing other activities. They're meeting with teachers. They're doing other things. And then the first part is eating, and then they kind of go and do whatever they're going to do.
Yeah, because that's got to be a big challenge.
It is a challenge, which is why we went to the contactless POSs, because then kids aren't typing in numbers, they type in something wrong, and we can just read the barcode scanner. As long as they have it out.
POS, point of service?
Point of service, yes, I'm sorry. Cashier station. But when they have got the barcodes out, it just scans and goes. So they're standing there less than probably 5 seconds. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, please extend our gratitude to your staff. I know we understand these are very difficult times with the fluctuation of numbers, with the expiration, storage, supply chain, so many things. So to be feeding this number of students and staff and families is commendable. And we thank you also for making connection between the name and the photo of your staff, and for you to list all of them and know them in person. It shows your leadership, and we're so thankful to you. So please let them know that we appreciate their good work.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Our next item of business are resolutions, and I believe the first resolution is a resolution presented by Superintendent Heil. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Chair Meisner and Board. We actually want to recognize the school board this evening. Next week is actually the school board recognition, but we wanted to do it today because we're all here together. So the resolution, whereas Fridley School District 14 recognizes the importance of public education in our community, and whereas Fridley School District 14 appreciates the vital role played by those individuals who, as local school board members, establish policies to ensure an efficient, effective school system. And whereas school board members serve as a voice that enables our community to preserve local management and control of our public schools. And whereas school board members are charged with representing our local education interests to state and federal government and ensuring compliance with state and federal law. And whereas the school board members selflessly devote their knowledge, time, and talents as advocates for our school children. And whereas the local school board members are strong advocates for public education and responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district. So now therefore be it resolved that the Fridley School District 14 recognizes and salutes each member of the Fridley School District 14 School Board by proclaiming February 21st to the 25th of 2022 as School Board Recognition Week. So we have something for you here and your cookies at your seat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have cookies.
Thank you, Dr. Heil.
Well, thank Lori for the
Thank
cookies.
you.
Thank you,
Lori.
Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Dr. Heil, that's very nice, and staff, thank you so much. And since it is a motion, the board has the pleasant task of voting on accepting this motion. So is there a motion to accept this resolution?
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept by Carnop,
Second.
second by, was that Stark? So we have a motion by Carnop, second by Stark, to approve the resolution proclaiming next week, February 21 to 25, 2022, as School Board Recognition Week. A resolution requires a vote. Roll call. So, Mr. Adam.
Aye.
Ms. Anna.
Aye.
Mr. Carnop.
Aye.
Mr. Meisner is aye. Ms. Burrito.
Aye.
And Ms. Stark.
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you again, Dr. Heil. The second resolution is the regular monthly resolution accepting gifts. Whereas the School Board Policy 706 establishes guidelines for the acceptance of gifts to the district, and whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 states the school board may accept a gift, grant, or device of real or personal property only by the adoption of a resolution approved by 2/3 of its members. Therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of Fridley Public Schools accepts with appreciation the following gifts received by the school district. A donation of $800 to Hayes and Stevenson Elementary from the Fridley United Methodist Women, and the following persons that donated to the Fridley High School music program for a total of $440. That's Michelle Miner, Jim Young, Pete Botts, and Cheryl Helming, which was a Yamaha keyboard and stand. There's also a donation to the Fridley Middle School music program of a grand piano, which I heard independently was very beautiful, from Jeff Sara. So is there a motion to accept these donations?
Motion to accept.
Motion from Puedo,
Second.
second by Adams. So we have a motion and a second to accept these gifts and to thank the donors for their generous contributions. This requires a roll call vote. Ms. Auna.
Aye.
Mr. Carnop.
Aye.
Mr. Meisner says aye. Ms. Burrito.
Aye.
Ms. Stark.
Aye.
And Mr. Adam.
Aye.
That motion passes. Our third motion is a motion to accept a bid from the Ryan Company and award the contract for the boiler replacement at Fridley High School. And we will have information on that from our financial director, Barbie Rossler.
Thank you. Good evening, Board Chair Meisner, school board members, and Superintendent Dr. Heil. Yes, the motion that you have before you is to accept the bid and award the contract to Ryan Company for the boiler replacement for the HVAC project that we are doing at our high school. This is an ongoing project, and this is one piece of that project. And the amount of the bid was $219,441.
Any questions from the board? Thank you, Barbie. With that, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
and a second. So we have a motion by Stark and a second by Anna for the approval of the bid from Ryan Company for the contract for the boiler replacement at Fridley High School. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Barbie. Our next motion is approval of the 2021 to 2023 Fridley Education Association Master Agreement. And for information, we have Ike Isaacson.
Good evening. Thank you, Board Chair Meisner, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Heil. I'm grateful to present two items this evening for your approval. First, the 2021-2023 Master Agreement for the Fridley Education Association. And we are likewise presenting for your approval the 2021-2023 Master Agreement for the clerical unit, including clerical, media clerks, health assistants, and technology assistants for Fridley Public Schools.
Thank you, Ike. And I know that is always a process, and there are a number of people involved. And so I want to express the board's appreciation to you and the staff and Superintendent Heil and everyone and to the FEA for the clear, collaboration in these negotiations. And so congratulations on this.
Thank you. It's our privilege.
So is there a motion to accept the first item, the Fridley Education Association Master Agreement?
Motion moved.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second by Stark, I think that was. So a motion by Adam, second by Stark, to approve the 2021-2023 Fridley Education Association Master Agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. And now is there a motion to approve the second item, the 2021 to 2023 Clerical Media Clerk, Health Assistance, and Technology Assistance Master Agreement?
Motion approved.
There's a motion from Pruito
Second.
and a second from Stark. So with that, motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that motion passes. Next, we have our consent agenda. The items are available in the information and online. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Therefore, is there any motion to accept and approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Were those both on my left? Over there. Thank you. So there's a motion by Stark and a second by Pruito to approve the consent agenda routine action items, including the minutes of the regular school board meeting work session held on January 18th, 2022, the monthly financial reports, the new contracts, amendments, leaves of absence, resignations, and retirements, overnight field trips for the Fridley High School baseball to Florida in March 2021 to 26, 2022, the Model United Nations trip to Minneapolis, March 24 to 26 of this year, the Fridley Middle School trip to the East Coast, June 13th to 18th of next year, and the robotics trip to Duluth, March 2nd to 5th of this year. And finally, the Education Identity and Access Management Resolution. So with those motions, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? And that passes unanimously. Our next item, I'd like to have Director Barbie Ressler please come back up and give us a reading on a few policies.
Thank you again, Chair Meisner, school board members, Superintendent Dr. Heil. So tonight I will be presenting first reading of a few different policies. The first policy that we'll hear the first reading of is 805, the waste reduction and recycling. In this version of it, we are including, we're identifying the statutes that reflect each area of the policy, and so that is laid without the entire policy, so for easy reference for us to understand where we can cite the specific policy or the specific statute, excuse me. The other change is just a clarification of the copier paper or office paper that we use and the percentage of post-consumer material by weight. So we've included that information. And then we've stricken the ink color reference from the policy. And as a side note, as we have talked about, our copiers do actually present a note to us as we are printing to let us know how much it would cost if we were to print something in color. So I think that's a really good deterrent for our users to always print without the color when necessary. The next reading that we have is policy number 807, the health and safety policy. Again, just slight modifications. We are striking the word of lost time when it's referencing injuries. We want to ensure that we're reducing any type of injury, not just those that have lost time tied to it. And then we also are including the words laws, rules, and in reference to compliance for occupational safety. And so those are the two main changes on that policy. The next policy for your review is policy number 711. That is video recording on buses. This is a new policy for Fridley Public Schools. It is not a new policy for MSBA, but it's one that Fridley Public Schools has not yet adopted. And so it basically states that there are video cameras on our school buses and the purpose of those and who can request the data and for how long we keep that data. And then policy number 712 is video surveillance other than on buses. And so again, it's the same policy to ensure that our staff, students, visitors, and any adults are aware that we do have surveillance when we may or may not view that for purposes in which we would view it. And again, the data privacy law, and then the security and maintenance of the surveillance.
Thank you, Barbie. So, and just as a reminder, these draft proposed changes or new policies are posted with the agenda on the school board page. And we will review them again in a month at the next meeting for the final reading. Our next item of on the agenda are reports from school board members who have attended the various organizations that we participate in. And I would like to first invite Director Anna to share any comments on the Northwest Suburban Integration School District meeting.
Yeah, it was my first meeting, so I met everyone. And it was a quick meeting. They just voted for positions within the committee and went over some old numbers and such that I had no idea what they were talking about. But that's about it.
That sounds like a good accomplishment for the first meeting. Get to know people and figure out how things work. Board member Adam, please, any updates on the Schools for Equity and Education meeting?
Yeah, the meeting was mainly a presentation about the governor's package for education, and it was a long list of some of the initiatives that the governor and the administration is prioritizing. So it included an additional 2% on the general education formula, reducing cross subsidies for special education and English language learners, and also a lot of it covered kind of mitigating the teacher shortage. So it included new pathways to educational licensing, statewide teacher mentoring programs, grow your own programs, as well as recruiting teachers of color from minority populations, and covering the cost of Minnesota teacher licensure exam. So they all seem to be very promising initiative that would help schools as we go through the challenges of COVID and after COVID. And at the end of this session, the Commissioner of Education spoke, and a video recording of her was presented where she was just motivating and telling educators to keep up the good work, and education is the future of Minnesota, and everyone should focus on it. Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Abdislam. And then Board Member Stark, an update on the Northeast Metro 916 meeting.
Yes, over about the last year, we've been reviewing having school resource officers in the 916 district. Four main recommendations were brought up: purpose and roles clarification, which would be establishing clarity of partnership, alignment, strengthening the connection between 916 and SROs, accountability, which would be ensuring follow through and effectiveness, and sustainability, working together for success. And this relationship will be reviewed each year. We approved some joint purchasing expenditures. We extended the school year for the special education center-based programs and the summer transition program. And there will be a gala for the 916 Foundation on April 7th at Seven Vines Winery, and the exact ticket price and details are yet to come.
Wonderful. Will you share that with the board when it...
I sure will.
Excellent. And then our last item is an update from the Association of Metropolitan School Districts meeting by Board Member Meisner. That's me. So I did attend my first AMSD meeting with Superintendent Heil, who is on the executive leadership board of the AMSD. And the Minnesota demographer, Susan Bauer, presented an update on the changes from the census over the last 10 years. A few highlights that struck me were that there was a total Minnesota population growth of 7.6% over the last decade. Most of that in the Twin Cities and major cities like Rochester and along the I-94 corridor. Locally, the Anoka County added 33,000 people in the last decade. And I'm delighted to report that the largest growth is in the Black Indigenous people of color group with 450,000 people in the state. So they're now nearly a quarter of all Minnesotans. And that's largely due, as I understand it, to young families and kids. There's not a lot necessarily of immigration into the state. That's a component, but a small piece. It was also interesting for the school board that nearly a third of teenagers now are identifying themselves as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. Economic trends were generally good. Birth rates continued to decline. And the overall outlook is enrollment will likely be mostly flat overall, but will vary by districts. We also had an update from the executive director of AMSD, Scott Grunquist, and fortunately, he had similar reports and priorities to what board member Adam presented from the C group. The funding updates from the Governor Walz proposal, linking more funding to the annual formula so it would stabilize year-on-year school funding, and a focus on staffing and recruiting and retaining our qualified staff. Any questions or comments on any of those meetings? Very well then. I think we're on to our last item, which are important future dates. We have the Fridley Middle School History Night coming up in 2 days, February 17th at 5:30 p.m. at the middle school. On February 21st, it is President's Day. There will be no school. The following day, February 22nd, is the pre-kindergarten registration night at the Fridley Community Center. There's an incoming 5th grade parent information night that will be on February 23rd at the Community Center. There will be a public school board retreat, that's us, on March 1st at 5:30 here at the Community Center. There will be a North Metro 916 board meeting on March 2nd. We have the next AMSD board meeting on March 4th at the Quora Education Center. And the last item, we have our next school board meetings on March 15th here at the Community Center with the working session at 5:30 and the business meeting at 7. There's also a public forum for addressing the board. I'm sorry, that's at 7 and the business meeting is at 7:30. Having no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Adam, second by Stark to adjourn. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.